plant, you need a lot of cement. And nobody just across the road by Obajana Cement, which is producing one of the largest cement, one of the largest cement country in the in Africa. And also, if you look at Calabar, also the easy access to this site, you can move in as many equipment as possible to that site. And also, you know, you have this Takwe iron and mining industry there. You have the Ajakuta steel company close to the site in the Lokoja, close to Lokoja, that is the Gregu site. So these are some of the basic things that NAEC now came up with, and they now choose the site based on the accessibility and also closeness to big industrial cities and also closeness to supplies. The site characteristics has not been taken place. There are also so many criteria for site characteristics. Like I said, they are going to, you know, you have to look at major things first before you now go into the site characteristics.
Thank you. Nesreen, you also have a question for Miles Pomper. You can go ahead and ask it. I will read her question to Mr. Pomper. Why Russia offered the financial help to Bangladesh?
Russia basically subsidizes a lot of its nuclear exports because it's really less, well, there's two reasons. One is that it's a very large domestic nuclear energy industry. And so it's a form of keeping people in jobs in Russia. So it's willing to sell its plants at subsidized prices to keep those people in jobs and keep them employed and the political problems that might come with their out of work. Secondly, it tends to view its nuclear power plants as much as political exports as economic ones. So it sees this as a strategic way to cultivate relations with countries and hope that sort of maybe in the long term with things like fuel and otherwise, it can get some of the money back. But it has as much to do with sort of political influence as it does with making any money off of these things.
You have two questions. You can ask the first one and the second one.
Okay, thank you very much to our presenters. My first question has been, I think second question has been asked by two persons regarding what informed the choice for the selection of sites. I won't go to that again. Then the second question to Dov is, he mentioned that there are so many programs, postgraduate programs on nuclear power energy. So I want to find out, do we have any institution in Nigeria currently running postgraduate program in nuclear power energy? Thank you.
Yes, yes, we have some institutions that are running master's degree in nuclear energy, nuclear security, and so on and so forth. And I think there are some universities like Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, where the research reactor is based. The OAU Ilefe, that's where the Center for Research and Development is resident. And also I'm aware of some universities that are also running some degrees in nuclear science and technology. But what I said is that a lot of NNRA staff undergoing the PhD in nuclear engineering, and they have done a lot of masters in nuclear engineering. But the bulk of them did it outside. And I think even currently we have about 5 people doing PhD degree in nuclear engineering. And also Russia is assisting Nigeria also in doing, sponsoring a lot of our NAEC and staff, which NR is going to also key in this year for master's degree in different aspects of nuclear engineering and also nuclear power plant development. So there are some universities in Nigeria that are doing it, but most of our staff and also the staff of Nigerian Atomic Energy Commission go outside to do the masters. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Garongano. If you are here, can they be moved to the panelists? Please raise your hand. The question again is to Dr. Idris. Dr. Idris,
Yes.
the question is, the organizational structure of NNRA looks complex. Is it easy to manage?
Yeah, it's, you know, when you, you know, that's why this IA came up with this management system. If you have a good management system, I mean, we're only, although compared to other African countries, we have the highest number of regulators. I think twice more than any other regulator in Africa, because we have 912 staff. And we have 6 zonal offices, 4 operational offices, and also we have the National Institute of Radiation Protection and Research. And that's why you see our organizational structure is complex. And you know, if you look at the Department of Organization Enforcement, they do enforcement, they do regulations, they do inspection, and so on and so forth. So that's why you see it. But they also run the ICT facilities in the authority. So because we are so many, and that's why you can see that the organizational structure is so big. Because in Nigeria, we have over 300 NDT facilities, over 5,000 hospitals using X-ray facilities. We have, in fact, I just saw it now, you know, we also license transporters of radioactive sources. Some of this, in fact, so last year, we licensed about 100 ships and barges that transport radioactive facilities in the high seas. That is just ships and barges. So we have thousands of facilities to cover. And that's why you see we're many, and because of that, that's why we're many. But we're managing, like I said, if you have a good management system, you'll be able to manage a complex system like this. In fact, with the new law, we have only 5 departments now. With the new law, if it is passed into law by the National Assembly, we end up having about 9 departments. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Karongan, I see you're here with the panelists. Do you have a follow-up question, or are you okay? Unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do have another question. That question is addressed to Miles Pomper. It's about the consideration, the challenges and the consideration, the economic consideration he put up, and I wonder if really this program is advisable to some of the countries, African countries, considering the economy. It is really, I'm wondering if, considering, for instance, the cost of a reactor and the project completion and the personnel, qualified personnel that are needed, I believe many countries in Africa will not be able to rush into this program. What is his comment on that?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think, look, these are decisions that are up to the people of the countries and the governments of the countries, and they've got to weigh all the factors. But it's, it's certainly very expensive to do this. As I indicated, I think that's one of the reasons people have tried to develop these small and modular reactors, because they're supposed to be less expensive because they're the plants are less big and so on. But no one's built one for a commercial purpose yet, so we don't really know what the cost of that kind of plant is. And the downside of building a smaller plant is you may get, even though it may cost you less money, you get less power. So the amount of power you get per dollar or euro or whatever spent may be less. I think it's particularly, if you're an African country, I would be a little wary of being the first country, say, to get an SMR, and I'd want to see it deployed in a Western country or some other country first, so you had some idea of what the economics are. But people have to judge those versus other sources of power, which are certainly cheaper in terms of initial costs. And factors like climate and so on. So there's a lot of factors to go in there, but the track record is not good for nuclear in terms of building new plants. I mean, nuclear is if you build a nuclear plant, if you have one that's operating now, the good thing about nuclear is if it operates for 60 years, you've built the plant. Every year that plant operates, the fuel's not very expensive, you have it last a long time, then in year 30 or year 40 or something, it's not so expensive. But that's not the fact that at the beginning of the process, and that's where you are in Africa.
The question is, should plans of the implementation of NPP be communicated with the public, considering the sensitivity of information regarding its operations and establishment? Also, how can the citizens be convinced about its safety?
Okay, thank you very much. Part of the major requirements for building nuclear power plant is communicating with the public and also with your neighbors. So it's very important that the public is aware of what is going to be done. And also, the national legislature and also the ministries, those Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Minister of National Development, and so on and so forth, and also the presidency, and every person that needs to contribute to that program needs to be informed. Because you cannot come to a place like my village and site a nuclear power plant without telling me what you want to do and how safe is it. So this public engagement is key to building a nuclear power plant. It's a major requirement.
Any member of the panelists who wants to add to that?
I would just certainly second everything that was just said. It's crucial to engage the public. And I mean, you're not going to want to give out security secrets or something like there's this door here that you can use or something. But people have to know, how the plants operate, what you're basically doing with these things, and feel that they can communicate with the people, have an open dialogue with people at the plant so they feel comfortable with it. I mean, there's a lot of nuclear power, particularly inspires a lot of false information and rumors and so on. So the more truth that regulators and officials and operators can put out there, the better.
Thank you. The next one is from an anonymous attendee. I'll read the question, and I think it's directed to Dr. Idris. Thank you, Dr. Idris. Intelligent presentation from you. So great to hear Nigeria has this beautiful capacity, but I have a concern. I once attended a workshop with a Nigerian nuclear chemist in Ghana. He is a PhD graduate of nuclear chemistry from University of Ghana, and he is really passionate about nuclear research and some of the key roles that you have articulated here. But I spoke with him some times ago, and he is not yet engaged with any nuclear practice. I mean, a job. With all these opportunities highlighted, I want to know why people like him, whom I know is really passionate about this field, is still left unengaged? Is the country maximizing some of the trained hands? And what can someone like him do to really pursue his dream? Thank you. Dr. Idris?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's a good question. But I'm really surprised because as it is now, we have a kind of ordinary, if you are not a chemist, you are not a physicist or a geologist. We have enough of other people. We are now concentrated on physics, geology, chemistry, and engineering. Chemical engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. So, and NNRA did recruitment January last year, 2020, and I think NIC also did. So I'm surprised, but all the same, you know, we have a lot of people graduate or PhD, which NNRA is accrediting them as radiation safety advisors. They advise all our licensees, medical facility, oil facilities, scanning, custom scanning, there's destination inspection, airports, and so on, so where they have X-ray scanners. So we have people that have PhD. I think we have accredited over 30 people that are working on their own and as radiation safety advisors. So I think this kind of person can engage himself. I mean, let him have one-on-one with one of our directors, and they will tell him what to do, or with NIC. There are so many nuclear facilities in Nigeria, of which somebody with a PhD in nuclear chemistry can fit in. And if he wants to go on his own, like I said, which a lot of people are doing, the radiation safety advisors, he can also apply to NNRA for accreditation as radiation safety advisors, advisor to be advising our people who have license with NNRA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next two questions I think have been asked and answered. We go to the anonymous attendee. Again, it's an anonymous one. I will read the question, which is directed to Miles. Please, can you shed more light on the statement, the future of nuclear depends on the LMIC energy usage, the first point of your last slide?
Sure. Well, as I indicated, I don't think in the higher income countries, we're probably going to see a decline in nuclear power use. For countries like in the United States, as I indicated, the market conditions are not favorable, and so the decisions of countries, as I indicated, particularly China and India, given their populations and electricity use, are where the future of the industry is going to have to be, and other LMICs. I mean, China has really been the thing that's held the nuclear industry together for the last decade. Something like half the plants or something or more were built in China. So that's what the industry is counting on to survive, is China, India, and other LMICs.
Thank you. The next question is from Abdul Majid Ibrahim. I think he has a question for you, Miles, also, but he needs to come.
Good evening, Miles. Good evening, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. You
My
can
name
ask
is
a
Ibrahim
question.
Abdul-Majid. Yeah, I want to thank all the presenters, most especially my Director General, for his contribution in this great program. So my question goes to Miles regarding nuclear power finance. So as you see now, most African countries are developing countries, which they have so much budget deficit, but eventually they want to still venture into building nuclear power plants. So what do you think are the financial options they could explore to build a sustainable nuclear power plant? So this is just my question. Thank you, Miles.
Have we lost Miles? Miles, are you there?
Sorry, my
Yeah.
computer came off for a second.
Did you hear the question?
I
Can I
missed.
come back?
It was starting about finance, but then there was a problem.
Okay, Mark, I said, nuclear power requires lots of financial resources, right?
Yes.
So then, like for developing countries who have so much budget deficit. So my question is, for eventually they still want to go into building nuclear power plants. What do you think are some financial options of financing their projects in a sustainable way?
Well, it's a challenge, and part of it is that these some of the countries, like Russia, as I've indicated, have offered fairly heavily subsidized loan packages, financing packages for. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for a commercial company to do this, but as I said, there's often political or other reasons for them to offer this subsidy. So that could be one possibility. The other option that they've tried, which is again not sort of commercially viable, but is called build, own, operate, which is what they're doing in Turkey, where the Russians have come in and said, we'll build the plant and we'll operate it, and then we'll just charge you for the electricity rate that of the plant when it's generated. So all the financing issues are essentially kind of taken off the table. The problem there is how much control does the regulator have in that country of the operation of the plant when all these, someone's coming in and operating a plant in your country. So that's a trade-off. But those are two of the ways that countries with fewer financial resources have dealt with the financing issue.
Thank you, Miles. The next question comes from Mohammed Alam, and I think it's linked to the one you have just answered. Mohammed, please raise your hand.
Mohammed, okay.
There he is. Can you unmute yourself and continue with your question?
Yeah.
Mohammed?
You're live,
Can
but
you,
yeah.
yeah, I can see he's live, but he needs to unmute himself. The question is, will the investment in nuclear energy attract investors to finance nuclear projects in Africa, or are there major challenges to implementing this? As I said, Miles, I think it's a question that is linked to the previous one. Do you want to again
Sure.
respond?
Sure. I mean, it's not it's not generally an attractive investment for a lot of private investors because of the risks involved, particularly the tendency for overruns and taking a long time to build the plant. So they don't often want to take the sort of equity risk or the risk of in those situations. So the financing has tended to be some form of state financing that's tended to work better. The people, a lot of these companies, France and in Russia and China, these are state-owned companies, and so the state, basically the governments there lend the money, and so they don't have to deal with commercial considerations to the same degree.
Good evening. I am Furo from Nigeria. My question is to La. And my thoughts are on Germany's decision to withdraw from nuclear power program and the obvious psychological effects this decision will have on countries that have just assented to nuclear power program. And so what persuasive steps would you recommend to allay such safety concerns?
So the question was, is Germany or Ghana's? I didn't quite.
Germany's decision to withdraw from nuclear power program will obviously have some psychological effect on especially countries that have just assented to nuclear power program.
Sure.
And what persuasive step would you recommend to allay these safety concerns?
Well, I think it's Germany has a particular political history with nuclear energy. It's also tied to their nuclear weapons and NATO and so on. So there's a Green Party that's very active. But I think the IAEA and others who are working with countries, I mean, you have to sort of have a very good independent regulator, a very good regulator, and you have to have good public communication, and that's not easy to achieve, as we saw in Japan and Fukushima. So it's a challenge for even the most advanced countries, and so the IAEA is very good at providing advice on how to do that, though. So I would say, and AFCONE, I guess, as well. Institutions like that that's what they're there for, is to help countries do that.
Thank you. And the second last question, it's from Ijeoma Oguchukwu. I don't see, and I will continue to read the question. Why would Nigeria seek to venture into nuclear energy as a source of power, whereas so many developed countries are seeking for better alternatives, such as solar energy, which is readily available resource? Therefore, what extra benefits does Nigeria expect to obtain from the venture? Dr. Idris, that's for you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. You know, the issue of solar is very good, but what she said, that most countries are now going for alternative source of, it may not be correct, because there are a lot of countries now going to nuclear power plant, including UK, US, and so on and so forth. They're also increasing the numbers they are having. So there are so many countries that are now developing this technology. And what Nigeria plans to do is to have 4 units. That unit can be between 4,000 megawatts to 6,000 megawatts at least, for a start, for example. Now, Nigeria needs at least 30 megawatts of electricity to be able to have light everywhere. Now, we can hardly reach 7 megawatts. That is about less than about 20% of what we need. So you need to have a lot of energy mix for you to be able to achieve the desired electricity generation. I know the nuclear power plant is also very much easier to maintain. The moment you have it, the electricity cost will be less than that of any other sources. So I think the Nigeria should not fear about anything that has to do with nuclear power plant, because one, a nuclear power plant in Nigeria, like they said, a nuclear power plant in the place is like a nuclear power plant in everywhere in the world. If you have a nuclear power plant in Nigeria, it's as good as you having a nuclear power plant in Washington, DC, or in London, UK, because nobody will allow you to operate a nuclear power plant. We have staff of NNRA that were recruited by the International Atomic Energy Agency as safeguard inspectors. Now the IAEA, for example, we have somebody, Sadiq, that is in Canada, permanently in Canada to supervise those nuclear power plants. We have another person in Korea and so many places. So if you have a nuclear power plant, it's not only Nigerians that are going to supervise it. You have the International Atomic Energy Safeguard Inspectors to ensure that you are doing the right thing and nothing happens. Even we have been operating in, what a lot of people don't know is that we have been operating a research reactor at the Center for Energy Research and Development, Zaria, since 2004. It was licensed by NNR in 2004. Now for 16 years, there was no major incidents at that nuclear power plant. We're able to convert it from high enriched uranium to low enriched uranium about 2 years ago. And so the issue of whether there's going to be nuclear power plant in Nigeria, there's no nuclear power plant. We already have a reactor in Nigeria that's been operating for 16 years. It's just a small version of the nuclear power plant. So any country, particularly as of now any country that wants to develop and does not have energy mix, that's mixing nuclear power, hydro, solar, so on and so forth, then the country is not ready to develop. China is constructing a lot of nuclear power plants upon all the hydroelectricity power they have. So I think it's good also in Nigeria to key into this technology so that we'll be able to advance and also industrialize. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my question was to Dr. Idris, and it's because as new entrants into this field, we would want to understand so that we those challenges. For Nigeria, what challenges did you experience, and what challenges do you continue to experience during this journey of setting up nuclear frameworks, national frameworks for your country? And what mitigation measures have you instituted? Not necessarily all the challenges, but all the major challenges, given that some of the national security issues you go through are similar to what we have here. Skill sets, selecting land with different topography and all. But there are those major challenges when setting up the frameworks, regulatory frameworks and all. What did you go through so that we are able to combat those challenges ourselves? We don't repeat the same mistakes.
Okay, thank you very much, Aldrin. I think I'll just concentrate on three major things. That is, one, human resource development, then the issue of financing, then also the issue of acceptance by the acceptance. The human development, nuclear power plant involved of human key personnel. So you have to plan to how many people you need if you to run a nuclear power plant from the siting up to the final operation. You have to come up with a kind of program for human resource development, and it has been a challenge to us, but we have done our human resource development analysis. We came up with what we need and so on and so forth. Both NAEC and NNRE. Then when you now identify those one you want to train, then there's also the issue of who can you train it yourself. In Nigeria, we got assistance from Russia. We also get assistance from Kings through MOU to train our staff, both NNRE and also NAEC staff. So you have to go into, and also of recent, we're also working with the Pakistani nuclear regulatory authorities and other nuclear regulatory authorities to help us develop our manpower needs. That is one. But the second issue is financing. Like somebody said, we have these are countries that they find it difficult to invest, long-term investment. So, for example, in Nigeria, we have to now come up with financing option. Is it the government that is going to, you have to look at it, whether it is the government that is going to build, operate the facility, or you're going to get somebody to build, operate, and transfer, or you need somebody to build, operate, and own. So you have to look at all these options of financing, which is one of the major issues, the financing. The investment is very difficult by the government and also by individuals. You have to come with a clear financing program. Then acceptability. You have to convince the politicians and also the bureaucrats and also the people resident in the areas who want to build a nuclear power plant that what you are planning is for the best, is in the best interest of the country and also in the best interest of the community. You have to convince the politicians and also the legislators also include the politicians. Because if you are not able to convince the bureaucrat and the politician, it will be very, very difficult for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. And we have done a lot of seminars. You know, what you can do is do a lot of seminars, involve ministers. At the last seminar we had the president of the Nigerian Senate and some ministers, and also key official for the presidency, and also Minister of Finance, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the challenges, and these are some of the ways we're able to, we're working to make sure that we cross those bridge.
Okay, thank you. Are you having a follow-up question?
Yes, please. Sorry for that, because that's a problem that we have whenever government seeks to train its people. Most of the time, the issue comes with the retainment. So, as for Nigeria, have you chosen the forced retainment of bonding, or have you chosen a remuneration package? What are you doing to retain them to ensure that you get value and knowledge management is passed on? Do you have a knowledge management system? Yeah, basically that.
Yes, you know,
Can you please mute your mic as Dr. Idris answers?
Yes, I think the IE has done a lot for the African region by starting this project RAF 9061, which is purely management system for the nuclear regulatory authorities for the African countries. And so most of us now, we have the knowledge management system, and a lot of our staff have also been trained on knowledge management. So the knowledge management is very important. And also, like you said, when you send people for training, you have to, of course, bond them. And also, you know, even if you bond them, they are bonded. When they come back, they finish their bond. If you don't have a good renovation, they will run. I think NNR is a special case. It's a special case in the sense that we find ourselves in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. So that's why NNR is having a salary that also is obtainable in the petroleum sector. So, and that attracts a lot of our people. Most of them, they only leave when they have to the International Atomic Energy Agency under also secondment.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I think the last one is just a comment that the organizers share the presentations and contact numbers of the panelists for further questions and inquiries. I would like to thank the attendees for staying. We have about 56 who have stayed with us up until now, and panelists. From all the presentation, I think one of the key factors we can take away with us is the polarization of the energy mix, renewables versus nuclear. Each country needs to look at that, because for energy efficiency, the energy mix should not be polarized. It's not one versus the other. It's how best the energy mix can serve the country. The issue of demystification of nuclear to the public came out very strongly. I think it is something that any nuclear industry, even when operating, even in established nuclear countries, are still struggling with the demystification of nuclear technology, and it's an ongoing campaign. Also, in terms of human resources, nuclear requires high-level skills, and therefore the collaborations and continuation of building the skill. That's the beauty of nuclear. It gives a country high-level skills that they can also utilize in other high-level industries in their countries. And also in terms of the economics, I think each country has to embark on the contract, on a nuclear build contract at the pace and cost that they can afford. And it will depend on the kind of contract that the country enters into. And with those words, I really would like to thank the organizers and the panelists. Thank you very much.